everyone, welcome back to What's Stranger Than Strange. My name is Erin. Today we're going to start with a new type of video in the realm of urban exploration. The video I will be reviewing today is brought to us by Chilling Scares. The title of the video is The 6 Most Disturbing Abandoned Building Encounters Caught on Camera.
Christopher Brian Hill is an urban explorer with a YouTube channel called Urbex Hill. Over the past 10 years, he's been uploading raw footage of his visits to some of the creepiest abandoned buildings in the country, often running into unexpected and sometimes life-threatening situations. Urban explorers like Chris face many dangers, from aggressive stray dogs to hostile squatters to respiratory risks and unsound structures. Venturing into an unfamiliar abandoned building is much more risky than it might sound. It's obviously much safer to explore abandoned buildings in the light of day and with a group of friends, but in most of his videos, Chris explores at night and always alone. In June 2022, he visited the abandoned Westinghouse electric factory located in Cleveland, Ohio. Built more than a century ago, the factory originally consisted of 7 different buildings, but most of them have been demolished by now. Even though the Westinghouse Company was established in 1886, it didn't reach Cleveland until 1894. Founded by Thomas Edison, Westinghouse is best known for the notable engineers who worked for the company, including Nikola Tesla and William Stanley. For several decades, the Westinghouse Company rivaled General Electric, and it was last used as a lighting equipment production plant before its abandonment in 1979.
Oh, wow.
For the past 4.5 decades, the abandoned factory has been one of the hottest urban exploration locations. The sound of gunshots can be heard in the distance less than 5 minutes into the recording.
That's scary.
It's worth mentioning that for the past few years, Cleveland has been ranked as one of the top 10 most dangerous cities in the U.S., making this visit to the abandoned factory even more risky.
He's going there at night by himself. He's hearing gunshots. It's scary outside and inside the building.
That's crazy.
I've seen some of these videos by this guy, and he's pretty good, very brave.
That far away from you. Oh, that sounds like a shootout.
Sure does.
Chris has experience exploring everything from abandoned mental hospitals and sanatoriums to vacant occult temples, and he shrugs off the fear as he enters the creepy building. He captures footage of the first floor and walks up the stairs to the second floor. All that can be heard in the eerie darkness is the sound of his footsteps. A few minutes later, Chris goes down to the basement, and the footage becomes increasingly creepier as Chris runs into a series of dead ends under the leaky, moldy ceiling.
It's like no railings.
Okay, I'm hearing something.
Man, that's scary.
Maybe it's an animal. There's animals down here.
At several points during his exploration of the basement, he can be heard making comments about a strange noise coming from somewhere on that floor, and at first he seems to think it's an animal. However, in this case, it's impossible to know if that's really what happened.
How many of y'all would actually...
Shortly after, he comes across a series of disturbing messages on the walls. He continues recording as he walks down narrow corridors, and this is where things get a lot more disturbing.
This place is so wet. Oh, this kid got at me.
Oh, y'all, you see that guy in the corner?
Yo.
Why is he facing like that?
Yo.
He needs to turn around and look around him, because how do you know there's not more people down there?
God, his way.
Let me make this smaller so y'all can see what they're saying.
Bro, that's crazy.
Understandably, Chris's breathing can be heard getting louder and heavier after the extremely unsettling encounter, but things were only about to get more disturbing
That's
for
scary.
him.
I'm gonna help that dude out. I'm gonna get this dude a $20 bill.
No. No,
Yo.
you're not giving him
Hey, I got some money for you.
unpredictable behavior for people. He didn't even respond when you were talking to him.
About 4 minutes later, Chris decides to go back to help the man out by giving him a $20 bill. But alarmingly, when he goes back to the room, the man is no longer there. This could be
Run up
incredibly
on you.
dangerous, as squatters are known to behave aggressively toward unwanted visitors. And because they know the place better than anyone else, they can easily hide in the shadows and attack or scare visitors when they least expect it. Chris notices bats flying around the basement, and things get even more eerie at this point.
Great, now they got vampires.
There's a lot of bad stuff.
Vampires and people. They don't talk and hide in corners with no lights.
Right when he walks into one of the rooms, if you look closely at the far left of the screen, you can actually see the man from earlier standing in what used to be a door frame, staring at Chris in the darkness.
Look over there.
Alarmingly, Chris doesn't notice and continues walking.
What if he
It's
wanted
impossible to
really
know
do
how long the
something
man
to
had been
him?
following him, and in these kind of situations, it can be hard to gauge the squatter's intentions. A few minutes later, the squatter can be seen walking outside as cars pass by the side of the building. At one point, Chris mentions he thinks the guy said hello, but it can't be heard clearly through the camera audio.
That's
Just when he
creepy.
decides to head out, he hears a cell phone vibrate, indicating that there are more people down there with him hiding in the darkness. Having had enough disturbing encounters for the night, he decides to play it safe, and fortunately he was able to leave the building unharmed. He never found out who that man
Get up those
was, and
stairs.
since then he hasn't uploaded another video of the Westinghouse factory.
That's creepy.
This video was recorded in Tartu, Estonia, and uploaded to YouTube in August of 2016. In it, a group of 4 teenagers visit an abandoned sauna that was built more than a century ago in 1915, back when Estonia was still part of the Russian Empire. After fulfilling its purpose for 80 years, the sauna was decommissioned in 1995. The building remained abandoned for 23 years until in 2018 it was fully renovated and turned into a beauty salon, which is still operating as of this video's upload in 2023. In August of 2016, the uploader visited the abandoned location with 3 friends. Upon
There's more
entering the
bats.
building,
Like,
you can
every
see that it
place
looks
has
exactly
bats.
what you would expect a building that's been abandoned for 21 years to look like. One of the teenagers finds a door frame covered by a curtain, and they decide to explore the room.
Probably not a good idea. I bet somebody's in there, but
Although the explorer was too busy running to show footage of the screaming man, it's more than likely that it was a homeless resident of the abandoned building who wasn't expecting visitors. Still, it must have been extremely disturbing to experience something like that, even if they went together as a group. After that day in 2016, the boys never went back to the abandoned sauna again.
as you should not.
In March of 2022, YouTubers Meg and Chris uploaded a new video to their channel, Back in Time MC, in which they showed footage of their visit to a run-down old farmhouse somewhere in the UK. They found an entry point through an open window around the side of the house. Based on the state of disarray the farmhouse is in, it's clear that nobody has been maintaining it for quite some time. The floor is covered in leaves and cobwebs, the shoes look dusty and unused, and there are even a couple of dead animals lying on the floor, along with some shotgun shells lying on top of a bedside table. It appears as if a family
The
of at
old
least
pictures
4
are
children
kinda
used to
cool.
live in the farmhouse. As the couple continues with the exploration, they walk into one of the upstairs bedrooms, where they find something very unexpected.
Now a piece of carpet that comes all the way across. Absolutely nuts.
Ooh, I wonder what they find.
Maybe we'll come into this bedroom here. And wow. Oh my god! Hello!
Where'd that voice come from?
You're alive!
What?
You know, man,
You
we
live in here, you can't live in here. Yeah?
no!
There's somebody living there?
We thought it was abandoned. We thought it was abandoned.
You can't live in here.
There's somebody in that
When he first
bed?
walked into the room, Chris didn't notice that there was someone asleep in the bed. It wasn't until Meg walked in and made a noise that the woman sleeping in the bed woke up and gave them the scare of their life. Although the uploaders blurred the woman's face out of respect for her privacy, it's clear that she's pretty old. During the conversation, she tells the couple that she doesn't have any family that could take her to live somewhere else less depressing. Out of sheer kindness, Chris and Meg keep the lady company and try their best to understand her situation. She introduces herself as Jane, and over the next 10 minutes they ask her questions about how she ended up living all alone in an abandoned farmhouse.
I can't believe she's
Thanks to the
living
couple's
there.
empathy, the initial shock of being startled by the sleeping old lady and seeing her living in such terrible conditions quickly turns into a heartwarming moment in which the 3 of them talk about each other's lives.
What happened was I came here to help somebody,
Okay.
and this is only for a week I'm coming.
Yeah.
And that was 1993.
Oh
She's been there
god.
since
Wow, she's been here nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
Disturbingly, Jane mentioned she's been living in the abandoned farmhouse for 30 years, and even though Chris and Meg offer to help her, bring her food, and buy her clean clothes and sheets, she seems hesitant to accept anything from them, claiming that she's fine living the way she does.
That's not
She
fine,
mentions
though.
that even though it's not her house, the men who work at the farmhouse know she's there, and they bring her food and water every day.
What men are
In
working
a touching
there? They said it
moment
was
at the end, the
abandoned.
couple agrees with Jane to visit her again soon. This would have been a happy ending to the story, but Chris and Meg included a caption at the end of the video that cast the situation in a more disturbing light. The caption reads, "I did a lot of research to try and find the name of the farm and whom it was owned by. Luckily, I got the information needed, and I even got a message from someone who knew the farmer who farms there." Chris goes on to explain
so
that the man
somebody
who reached out to
farms
him
there.
also knew that Jane was living there, and that the farmer also lives in the farmhouse with her. According to the man, Jane is very well cared for, but she chooses to live in those terrible conditions anyway.
Why would you choose
The man
to live
also
like that?
mentioned that Jane's husband is up there constantly to make sure she's okay, but she doesn't accept his help very easily, or anyone's help for that matter. It's worth mentioning that Jane might not have been completely truthful about her situation to Chris and Meg. During their conversation, she mentioned that she didn't have
So, I was just kind of skimming ahead on what the caption read, but the lady does in fact have family and has other people that she knows that try to come help her, and she doesn't accept that help. She doesn't really want to accept help from other people. So, long story short, it's just a long, drawn out explanation that the lady basically chooses to stay there. They've reported the situation to the appropriate agencies, but they've even said they know that she lives there, and they know that the lady just doesn't want to change her circumstance. So we're just going to move on from that video. That's sad though. But oh well. You know, I mean, there's only so much you can do. Like if somebody doesn't want the help or they don't want to leave a place, you know. We'll move on.
Robert Fulton Elementary is an abandoned school in a pretty rough neighborhood of Cleveland, Ohio. The building is 92 years old and has been abandoned for over 13 years. After several complaints from nearby residents who mentioned that the abandoned building was an eyesore, a potential crime hotspot, and that it was lowering the value of their properties, the mayor of Cleveland announced plans to turn the rundown old building into a high-quality, mixed-income housing unit for the community.
Oh, that's cool.
The plan is for the renovations to begin by the end of 2024. For now, Robert Fulton Elementary remains one of the creepiest abandoned schools in the country. In May of 2023, Chris Hill, again from the YouTube channel Urbex Hill, uploaded a video in which he made a second visit to the boarded-up, abandoned elementary school.
Cool.
Most sections of the building are falling apart, and the water and elements have done irreversible damage to the structure. I would not recommend anyone explore this school. You risk getting robbed or worse.
Might fall through the
With that
floor
being
somewhere.
said, I heard weird noises and other various things during my exploration. After these incidents, the vast majority of people would have been too terrified to even think of going back. But 2 years later, Chris decided to make a second visit to the school, alone at 1 a.m.
He warns other people not to do it, but then goes and does it. Okay.
It's crazy in here.
He does a good job on his videos. He's very brave, but like, bruh, like I could
From the
not.
very beginning of the footage, it's clear that Robert Fulton
Mhm.
Elementary belongs in a different category of abandoned buildings than most others. What stands out the most about the building is the fact that just over a decade ago, children were learning in those classrooms, running and
only
playing
been
in the
abandoned for a
halls,
little
and
over
now
10
it looks
years.
more like something out of a horror movie than a school. The eeriness of the location, the pitch darkness, and the extreme state of decay of the building all contribute to the school's incredible.
Y'all know what movie I'm thinking of that started off like where it started to get real scary inside of a school, an old abandoned school. Like, if you guys can guess what movie I'm talking about, leave it in the comment. Starts off in the school. That movie I think came out too like maybe 10, 15 years ago, something like that. I want to say roughly. But, so yeah, it's in a school, is where like things start to get real scary. There's a siren, if you catch my drift. I just want to know like who is like a horror movie fan. If you can guess what movie I'm talking about, leave it in the comment section below. All right, here we go.
Incredibly creepy atmosphere, and not a lot of people would dare go in there at night, much less alone. For a building that has only been abandoned for 13 years, Robert Fulton Elementary is in a much worse state than other buildings that have been vacant for much
That's
longer.
what I'm thinking.
But Chris doesn't seem to mind as he captures footage of the dark corridors with
Like, it's
peeling
been abandoned
walls
for,
and
like,
random debris
25,
lying all over
30
the
years.
floor. As he ventures deeper into the school, Chris starts hearing strange
40 years.
noises, but nobody seems to be around, and he continues his exploration in the chilling silence. The underlying structure in some of the rooms on the upper floors seems extremely unstable, but Chris shows his expertise in urban exploration by avoiding the surfaces that crack under his feet. After about 15 minutes of exploring the top floors, Chris goes down into the basement, which is arguably the most deteriorated part of the school. As he explores the dark rooms, he finds some indications that other people could be living there. Interestingly, he also finds what appears to be a boiler room that's been flooded with water.
Oh, that's scary. It's like green, like murky looking water. What was that?
At around the 30-minute mark, a loud banging noise can be heard coming from one of the rooms, and it becomes very clear that Chris is not alone. As he steps into one of the classrooms, he finds a very eerie message written on the chalkboard,
Don't
which
explore
reads,
alone.
"Don't explore
That's
alone,"
creepy.
as well as a paper sign on the door that reads, "Keep out." Despite the clear warnings, he goes inside, only to find more signs that somebody's living there.
That's so
This is where
scary.
Chris's visit to Robert Fulton Elementary takes a very chilling turn.
How could you do that? Like, if I saw a sign like that on the chalkboard, I would have ran. Somebody's letting you know that they know people explore there. They're warning you.
Fearing for his life after hearing the blood-curdling scream, he sprints out of the building to safety, hoping that the man wasn't following him. If you look closely at the footage, you can see the outline of the screaming man when Chris peels back the curtain to his room.
Where you see this at?
Back the curtain to
Oh, I see it. It's on the left. If you look in between the shelves on the left side, and then there's something that looks like a box, or I don't know if it's like a podium or anything, like a white box right in the middle of the floor. So if you look at the area right in between, you can see a man's feet, pants, shirt. You can see their arms coming down, but you just can't see their face.
his room. Upon reviewing the footage later that night, he found something else even more unsettling. When he first walked into the building, his camera caught something that he didn't notice at the time. In the distance, a man's shadow can be seen walking into one of the rooms.
Where?
It's not clear where the man went after that, but based on the strange noises Chris heard throughout his visit, it's very likely that the man was watching him all along.
He saw him.
Although the scream was terrifying to hear, and we can only imagine what Chris must have felt at that moment, it's worth mentioning that the room he entered was probably the man's home, and from the squatter's perspective, it was probably just as terrifying to see a random man pull back the curtain to his room. These kinds of encounters can often get violent very quickly, but thankfully Chris once again made it out safely. He hasn't uploaded new footage of the location since then.
I wouldn't go back.
A tour guide from San Bernardino, California. One day, as he was
nice
riding
out
his
there.
motorcycle on the highway in California, he noticed an abandoned house sitting on top of a hill and decided to take a look inside. From the very beginning of the footage, it becomes clear that somebody has already been there, and that it probably wasn't the original owners of the house. Unlike many abandoned buildings, you can tell this house used to be beautiful before it was vacated, but
Yeah,
that
it's
doesn't make it
nice.
any less creepy to
at that
visit,
view.
even in the middle of the day.
Wow.
Heebie-jeebies, dude. Dude, that dark room. I kept feeling something was gonna jump out at me. What's down here?
A place that you don't need to go because it's dark and you don't know what's down there.
I think I hear somebody. I think I hear something.
Yeah. Not cool. You gotta be a track star. That's one thing I'm learning. If you can't run, you don't need to.
Derek goes down to explore one of the rooms on the bottom floor, and this is where he hears a disturbing thud. Terrified, he makes a run for it and even trips and falls on his way out. But eventually, he gets back on his motorcycle and flees the location. That if you hear a loud noise upon entering a room, you should probably leave. Sometimes squatters make a noise as a first and final warning to drive visitors away respectfully. If Derek had pushed forward, he may have been attacked by whoever was hiding in the darkness. It's a natural impulse to call out and announce your presence in these kinds of situations, but squatters will very rarely answer these calls in a normal way. Nobody likes to be seen living in those conditions, and more often than not, the response will be rather aggressive and sometimes even violent. Fortunately, in this case, Derek was able to get away from the potentially dangerous situation just in time.
Good.
In central Ontario, Canada, there's a small community south of Port Elgin known as North Bruce. To the locals, however, it's known as the Devil's Elbow. According to John, the urban explorer who uploaded this video, the reason for the name was that there was once an occult high priest who lived in the mansion. John set out to explore the occult mansion alone at night. About 5 minutes into the exploration, John starts to hear strange noises upstairs, but they seem to quiet down as soon as he climbs the set of stairs.
Guys, I think I've been hearing stuff upstairs, but I'm hoping.
It's a very nice house.
And I mean this, I really hope that it's paranormal. Not someone freaking in here.
That's crazy. He's even saying, I'd much rather deal with a ghost than a human.
Freaking somebody down there, dude. Come on, quit messing with me. I'm just trying to freaking... I'll leave. Oh. Is there somebody here? I'm not here to bother or rob anything. I was just here exploring. I thought it was a bad...
Yeah, a man's voice can be heard screaming, "I'm gonna kill you," and before catching a glimpse of who it is, John runs out of the mansion immediately and doesn't look back until he's a safe distance away from the building. It's unknown who was in the house or how long they'd been watching it.
Alright, so that completes another video. Again, thank you to Chilling Scares for the urban exploration compilation. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to comment below. Would any of you go out and do any type of urban exploration? If so, would you do it by yourself? That's the big question, because there's one thing to like do it like in the daytime and have like a group of people with you, but is anybody brave enough, or have you done that, like gone out like at night and had no one else with you, just you and like a flashlight, you and your camera? Let me know. And don't forget to share your stories to my email that I will share as well. If you have any urban exploration experience, like just write in, let me know anything at all. Thanks for stopping by, and until we meet again, take care.